The Filipino delivery driver stood in the middle of the blocked-off city street, blue uniform bright against the gray van behind him, a cardboard box in his hands. A police cruiser idled with lights flashing, and an officer in dark navy marched right up into his face, jaw clenched, fists on his belt. People slowed on the sidewalk, some whispering, some lifting their phones. To anyone passing by, it looked like a reckless driver finally getting what he deserved. No one could see the spreadsheet open on the driver's laptop back in the van, the payroll that kept 30 families afloat. No one knew he owned every van in his fleet, including the one the cop was threatening to tow. His name was Marco de la Cruz, 38, Filipino American, founder of Metro Sprint Delivery. 5 years earlier, he'd been just another guy busting his back at a big shipping company, running routes 10 hours a day and still barely making rent. He'd saved every tip, skipped every unnecessary expense, and started his own courier service out of a borrowed minivan. Now he had 12 vehicles, a small warehouse, contracts with local bakeries and medical labs. On paper, he was CEO. In reality, he still liked to be out on the road once or twice a week. "Can't forget what it's like for the guys," he always told his wife. "You sit at a desk too long, you start thinking in emails instead of streets." Today, he'd picked up a handful of special runs himself, a rush order of legal documents, a batch of lab samples, and right now, a custom cake that needed to be in a 10th floor office in exactly 13 minutes. The loading zone in front of the building was supposed to be reserved for deliveries. Supposed to be. Instead, it was clogged with 3 SUVs half up on the curb, their hazard lights blinking like a dare. Marco did what every driver in the city did when the rules broke before he did. He slid his van to the side, tied against the curb, flashers on, hopped out with his box, and planned to be back behind the wheel in under 3 minutes. He never made it to the lobby doors. "Hey! You can't park there!" The shout came from behind him. Marco turned and saw a man in a polo shirt, mid-50s, red in the face, stomping toward him from the sidewalk. "Loading zone," Marco said, nodding toward the painted curb. "I'll be quick." "Loading zone for real trucks, not whatever operation you're running out of that junk van. You people think you can stop wherever you want and block traffic." Marco bit back the instinctive reply. Arguing with random guys on the street never helped his schedule. "Sir, I'll be 3 minutes. You'll be okay." The man's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," he muttered. Yanking out his phone, Marco heard the words "police," "blocking the street," and "sketchy delivery guy" as he pushed through the revolving door. The receptionist already had the freight elevator key waiting. "You're good, Marco," she said, glancing at the cake label. "12th floor, conference room, they're waiting." He jogged back down less than 4 minutes later. Job done, tip already accepted with a grateful handshake. As he stepped out onto the sidewalk, the first thing he saw was the cruiser angled behind his van, flashers strobing. The second thing he saw was the neighborhood complainer pointing right at him. "That's him! Told you!" The officer strode toward Marco, boots heavy on the pavement. His name tag read Henderson. He was tall, broad, the kind of guy whose uniform seemed a size too small around the arms. His eyes flicked briefly over Marco's face, his brown skin, the company logo stitched on his shirt, then hardened. "Sir, is this your van?" he demanded. "Yes, officer," Marco said. "It'll be out of your way in 30 seconds. You're already in my way," Henderson cut in. "You're blocking a lane and obstructing traffic. You got a permit to use this loading zone?" Marco held up the handheld scanner still in his left hand. "We're a licensed courier," he said. "Company name's on the van. I have the permits in the glove compartment. I can grab them if—" "Don't move," Henderson snapped. "You don't touch that vehicle until I say so. You understand me?" A small crowd was forming now. Office workers on their smoke break, a teenager with a skateboard, 2 tourists clutching shopping bags. Someone's phone was already pointed in their direction. Marco could feel the eyes on his back.
"I'm not trying to argue," he said carefully. "I only stopped long enough to drop a package. Those SUVs were already in the—" "Those SUVs aren't the problem. Right now, you are. You can't just pull up wherever you want because you're wearing a polo and a hat." Marco felt a flicker of heat in his chest. "With respect, that's literally how deliveries work," he said. "We use the zones the city designated. If people are blocking them, we adapt. I'm in and out faster than any of those cars." The man who'd called the police folded his arms, satisfied. "Told ya," he said to Henderson. "He got mouthy with me, too." Henderson nodded like that confirmed something. He stepped closer, invading Marco's space. "ID," he said. "Driver's license, company credentials, now." Marco shifted the box in his hands. "My wallet's in my back pocket. I'm going to put this on the ground so I can get it, okay?" He half expected the officer to grab his arm anyway. He'd seen enough videos to be cautious. Instead, Henderson gave a curt nod. Marco crouched, set the box carefully at his feet, and reached slowly for his wallet. He handed over his license and the laminated company ID badge he clipped to his belt most days. Henderson scanned them with a disdainful sniff. "Metro Sprint Delivery," he read aloud. "Never heard of it." "We're local," Marco said. "Small business." "You got proof of insurance for that van? Commercial plates? Inspection stickers up to date?" "Yes," Marco said. "All of the above. I can get it from the glove compartment. I heard you. I'll decide when you do that." He turned slightly, raising his voice so the bystanders could hear. "You know how many of these little fly-by-night outfits I see? Guys in unmarked vans, foreign accents, no paperwork, dumping boxes wherever. Then people wonder why their packages get stolen." Marco's fists clenched at his sides. "My foreign accent is from Quezon City and California, and my paperwork is cleaner than half the national chains out here. We deliver on time, we pay taxes, we sponsor the Little League 2 blocks from your station." Henderson stepped in until their faces were inches apart. "Watch your tone," he growled. "I can tow that van and write you up for obstructing traffic, operating without visible permit, and refusing to comply with a lawful order. You want to lose your job over a cake delivery?" Marco felt something in him crack. The box at his feet suddenly seemed heavier.
Before we continue the story, let me know what country you're watching from. Hit the like button if you love this story, and please subscribe if you are new to my channel. Let's continue.
"This is my job," he said quietly. "I'm not just the driver. I own the company." A couple of people in the crowd murmured. Henderson snorted. "Sure you do," he said. "And I own the Dodgers. You think I've never heard that before? Oh, the boss is going to be so mad, you don't know who I am." He shoved the license back into Marco's chest, hard enough that the laminated card bent. "Here's what I know," he continued. "You're blocking a public street and arguing with an officer. You've got about 5 seconds to stop before I put you in cuffs and we have this conversation downtown." Marco's heart hammered. He imagined his vans idling at the depot, drivers texting the group chat asking why the boss wasn't answering. He imagined missed pickups, hangry clients, the fragile trust he'd built with this city starting to crack. He also imagined himself on the news as another brown man being shoved into a cruiser for doing his job. He took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. "Stand there and wait while I write your ticket and call a tow," Henderson said. "A tow?" Marco's voice sharpened despite himself. "Officer, come on. My van isn't abandoned. I'm right here. Give me the ticket if you have to, and I'll move. But towing it? You know what that does to a business like mine." Henderson shrugged, already turning toward his car. "Should have thought of that before you decided the rules don't apply to you, maybe in your country." He didn't finish the sentence. A second cruiser rolled up just then, pulling in behind the first. The door opened and another officer stepped out, older with a softer middle and lines at the corners of his eyes. His name tag read, Ramirez. "What's going on, Henderson?" Ramirez called, taking in the scene. The van, the box on the ground, the stiff Filipino guy in blue, the watching crowd. "Obstruction," Henderson said. "Unlicensed courier outfit blocking the loading zone, giving me attitude. I'm towing the van." Ramirez frowned.
His gaze flicked to the side of the van, where the Metro Sprint logo stretched across the panel. He stepped closer, squinting at the smaller letters underneath, Metro Sprint Delivery. Local, fast, Filipino-owned. The last line was something Marco's designer had suggested, and he'd hesitated over it at first. "It's part of your story," she'd said. "Own it." Today, that line might save him. Ramirez's eyes widened slightly as he read the tagline, then the small print by the driver's door, a city permit decal, and a stylized signature under Authorized Operator M. De La Cruz. "Wait a second," Ramirez said slowly. "Metro Sprint? Like the company that did the school supply drive with us last month?" Marco nodded warily. "That was us. We delivered the backpacks." Ramirez snapped his fingers, face brightening with recognition. "You're Marco," he said. "We met at the Chamber of Commerce thing. You gave a talk about small businesses hiring veterans. You brought your kid, right? Little boy who kept trying to grab my radio?" Despite everything, the memory tugged a brief, grim smile from Marco. "That was my son. He still talks about how cool the police car was." Henderson blinked. "You know this guy?" he asked. Ramirez looked at him like he'd grown a second head. "Yeah," he said. "Half the guys at the station know this guy. Chief's wife uses his service. He's on the city's approved vendor list. There was literally an article about him in the local paper last month. Filipino entrepreneur builds delivery empire. You didn't see it taped above the coffee machine?" Several people in the crowd murmured louder now. The teenager with the skateboard quietly mouthed, "Oh," realization dawning. Henderson's mouth opened and closed. He looked back at the van, really seeing it for the first time. The logos, the permits, the inspection sticker. The story in his head no longer matched what was in front of him. He cleared his throat. "He was still blocking the lane," he muttered. Ramirez rubbed his forehead. "For 3 minutes, in a loading zone, doing the job the loading zone exists for. Meanwhile, you've got SUVs halfway on the curb over there, and you picked the one brown guy with a cardboard box to make an example of. That's not," he started, then stopped. The words, "not about race," died in his mouth when he saw the cameras pointed at him.
Ramirez turned to Marco. "Mr. De La Cruz," he said, using the formal tone he reserved for people with more rank than him, "I'm sorry. We got a call, but this is not how it should have been handled." Marco's shoulders slumped, the fight bleeding out, leaving only tiredness. "I just want to finish my route," he said. "I've got 6 more stops before noon." "You will," Ramirez said. He looked pointedly at Henderson. "And for the record, nobody is towing this van." The complainer in the polo huffed. "So he just gets away with it?" he said. "He was rude to me." "I was trying to work," Marco said, finally letting some of the frustration show. "You decided that made me suspicious." Ramirez nodded. "Sir," he said to the man, "the loading zone is for deliveries. If you don't like seeing delivery drivers, I suggest you do your shopping in person next time instead of online." A few people snorted. He turned back to Henderson. "You're going to clear this ticket," he said quietly, enough that a few people could hear. "And you're going to apologize. Then you're going to sign up for that implicit bias training the chief's been pushing." Henderson's jaw worked. Pride and embarrassment wrestled on his face. Finally, he let out a breath. "Mr. De La Cruz," he said stiffly, "I apologize for escalating the situation. I should have checked the permits and listened before threatening a tow. And an arrest," Marco added, more to remind him than to twist the knife. Henderson winced. "And an arrest?" he said. "That was unnecessary." He studied him. He thought of his drivers, some of them darker-skinned than him, some with thicker accents, all of them in blue polos that might as well be targets to people who didn't look twice. If this was how they were being treated when he wasn't around? "I don't need you to like me," Marco said slowly, "but I need you to understand that when you come at my guys like that, you're not just yelling at some delivery dude. You're messing with people's livelihoods. Next time you get a call about a sketchy van, maybe read the name on the side before you decide who they are." Henderson nodded once, the slightest hint of shame in his eyes. "Noted," he said. Ramirez clapped Marco lightly on the shoulder. "We'll get out of your way. You still got that Little League sponsorship this summer?" "As long as nobody tows all my vans," Marco said, a wry edge to his voice. Ramirez chuckled. "I'll make sure they don't," he said. The cruisers pulled away, lights off now. The crowd slowly dispersed, some people giving Marco small nods of support as they went. The teenager with the skateboard lingered. "Hey man, I'm posting that, but I'll caption it with your company name. Free marketing, right?" Marco huffed a laugh. "Tag the website. We could use the business." When he finally slid back into the driver's seat, the adrenaline crash hit him all at once. He sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, watching his own reflection in the side mirror. Blue hat, tired eyes, the faint lines at the corners that had deepened since he'd started this journey. He thought of his parents in the Philippines, bragging to the neighbors on video calls, "Our son has his own company in America." He thought of his employees, Filipino, Black, Latino, white, who just wanted to do their roots and go home. He started the van, checked his mirrors, and pulled smoothly back into traffic. There were still packages to deliver, schedules to keep, and a business to run. Later that week, he'd get an email from the police chief requesting a meeting about supporting fair treatment of local businesses. Henderson would be there, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, listening while Marco explained what it felt like to be treated as a suspect in front of potential customers. And somewhere down the line, when another call came in about a suspicious delivery guy in a blue polo and a brown face, Henderson might remember the day he almost had the boss's van towed, and how small he felt when he realized the man he'd threatened to arrest was the one signing 30p checks a month. Maybe, then, he'd walk up to the next driver with a question instead of a threat.
Thank you for watching to our Badge and Justice stories. If you want to watch more stories like this, click the videos above. See you again tomorrow.